Hey, we are live. Hey, Facebook communities, what is up? I hope you guys are having an awesome Friday so far. I'm Colleen Sullivan, and I am super excited to bring on a special guest today to be talking about all things ADHD and specifically how we can address the root causes of ADHD symptoms by addressing some imbalances in the gut microbiome and the gut-brain axis. So while we're going to be focusing on ADHD, this really applies to any of the many gut-brain dysfunction diseases, including autism, anxiety, depression, because we now know how we feel is not just in our heads, but is also in our guts. And whether your kiddo has a diagnosis or not, or is just struggling in some capacity, right? Let's be honest, there's been a lot going on over the last few years, and our kids are struggling with stress, anxiety, in and out of school, at home, sports. And there are things that we can do naturally to help our kids feel and perform better by addressing these issues at the root. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you are coming on live with us or catching it on the replay, just drop any questions or comments in the chat box below. And if you are coming on live, we like this to be engaging and interactive. So if you have any questions for our guest, who I'm just going to introduce shortly, put them in the chat box as well. So my guest today is Dr. Shawn Talbot. And if you don't already know him or haven't heard the incredible information and science that he brings to the table, you are going to love this conversation and hearing the wealth of knowledge that he brings. Dr. Shawn has been in the field of mental and physical performance around stress resilience, cortisol, all things gut-brain health. He's written several books. I kind of stopped counting. I'm reading his newest one right now, Mental Fitness. He has a PhD in nutritional biochemistry and has worked in the White House with Michelle Obama, the U.S. Olympic teams on their nutrition programs. He has been formulating natural products in the nutritional science field for decades. So he's kind of a big deal, and we're excited to have him. But I truly introduce him with all his credentials because I want you to know what good hands we are in with his knowledge for you today. So before I let him take it away, I know you guys want to hear all the information, but a little background on me and why this topic is something that I'm just so passionate about. And I will not stop sharing, and you'll understand the reason why. I was introduced to Dr. Shawn and his incredible nutritional protocols almost 3 years ago when my family was really, really struggling. And at that time, my son was struggling with his ADHD and had been for quite some time, since he was 6 years old, and he's now 24. So that's a long time for a kid to struggle. And we went down the road of treating his symptoms with the stimulant drugs because that was the only solution that was being presented to us. And it was truly a roller coaster of dodging one side effect after another, one new issue after another, to help this poor kid focus and get a taste of success in the school environment. And the meds actually made him feel worse than better. And it wasn't until his senior year in college when he started on these amazing healing nutrients that he got his first taste of success without struggle. And I get emotional saying that because it was heartbreaking as a parent to watch year after year go by in his school years with that struggle. You know, it's just kind of like this heavy weight on his shoulders that a kid should not have to carry, right? So in his senior year in college, he got all A's and B's, achieved his highest GPA ever, with a full college course load in the middle of a pandemic. But not only were the grades important, Dr. Shawn, he started feeling like himself again, right? Happier, more confident. his creative talents were, he's a musician, so the meds were just kind of stifling all that. He got his energy back. Like life was good again. And that's how we want our kids to experience. And for me, as a mom, the stress, I started on the protocols as well. My stress resilience went from a 0 to a 10.
Right.
The worry, the anxiety, the overwhelm, just, the weight kind of came off my shoulder as well as a parent. And I know parents out there feel the same way. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And so let's dive in. Sorry for the
let me just say one thing, Colin. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I think this is a great topic that a lot of people are going to find interesting. But I want to say, like, what you just said about how it wasn't just about focus. Your son did a lot better, feeling more like himself with his resilience and his creativity and like all that kind of stuff. That's where natural products really, really shine. And so I want to make the distinction that, when we, most of us talk about, most of us as parents, right? We talk about ADHD as, as sort of shorthand for my kid can't focus. And we use words like depression and anxiety and things like that. It's important to understand that, like, these supplements aren't necessarily replacing drugs. They're not, curing diseases and things like that. But I will say this, that if you want something above and beyond what those synthetic compounds can do, natural is the way to go. We know now, the science tells us now, especially around the gut-brain axis, that there are things that we can do in the gut with the microbiome to produce the compounds that we want, the neurotransmitters like serotonin, so we're happier, and dopamine, so we're more motivated, and GABA, so we can relax in the face of stress, right? All that stuff comes from the gut. That's why we talk about the gut as the second brain. But then there are also things we can do directly in the brain. We can use herbs like saffron or asparagus extract or New Zealand pine bark or theanine. There's so many options that are out there that I think most parents have never heard of before, but it's funny because of the kind of work that I do. My PhD is in nutritional biochemistry, but the kind of work, just so people know sort of where I'm coming from, kind of work that I've been doing for the last 20 or so years is sometimes these days called nutritional psychology, because what we're doing is using these beautiful natural nutrients to nourish the entire gut-brain axis to help people feel better and perform better and be more mentally well and more mentally fit. And so there's so much that we can do with these natural options. Whenever I talk to parents, especially, they'll go, oh my gosh, I never even knew that was an option. If I had known that was an option, I would have tried the natural thing first before I tried, one of these other synthetics, which lead to all the side effects and problems and things like that you just shared.
Yeah, that was me, Dr. Shawn, way back when. I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And I, up until I met you 3 years ago, I didn't hear the word microbiome being tossed around, or this whole, what does gut-brain access mean? I had to take a deep dive as well. But with your help, understanding this new science and how we can really reprogram the gut microbiome to fire off all the feel-good neurotransmitters.
Right. So let me share a quick story about my own son, who's home right now for spring break from college. He's a second-year college student. Last night, he's sitting there on his iPad working on something, and he looks up at me with this big smile on his face, and I was like, "What? Uh-oh." And he goes, "Yeah, my lowest grade right now." So they're mid-semester right now. He goes, "My lowest grade is a 93." And I was just like, "What?" And that's a kid that second year in college right now, getting great grades, enjoying everything, sort of like blossoming as a young man. If you sort of go back in time to fifth grade, his teachers pulled us aside and said, we think you need to medicate this kid, right? Because he wasn't paying attention in class. He wasn't, at the level that they expected for him, or whatever it was. And my wife and I looked at each other, and we my wife looked at the teacher and said, I think my husband's going to have something to say about that, right? Because of the work that I do, but now there are even more options that we can give kids now, and not just kids, adults, to really improve all that signaling across the gut-brain axis. So we can dig into some of those. We can talk about specific options. We can talk about mechanisms if you want to. So let me know how you want to go.
Yeah, I would love to talk about this concept that I've heard you talk about before, Dr. Sean, is this whole idea of this neurotransmitter coordinated balance. And not to diss the meds and the synthetic options, but it's really why the meds are not a home run.
Right. Right. Yeah. So let's we can pick on we'll pick on some of the drugs that people know. And when I say that, like, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but as a nutritional biochemist, I like to pick on them because they're the opposite biochemical approach from what a natural option is going to be. So if the two stereotypical ones to talk about would be Prozac for depression and Ritalin for ADHD, right? Those are both really powerful synthetic chemicals, synthetic entities that do one thing. So Prozac is going to increase your levels of serotonin, and it's used as an antidepressant. If you increase your serotonin levels, you'll be happier. Ritalin is a little bit different. It's one or two, depending on the version that you have, if it's Ritalin or Adderall, one or two chemical steps away from methamphetamine. So it's a very, very potent, powerful stimulant that can be addictive, that can have a lot of side effects, etc. So if you were to use Prozac to improve your mood, that's only going to help if your issue is serotonin. And even then, it's only going to help to a certain degree, and we'll talk about why in a second. Same with Ritalin. If your need is to have a high dose stimulant in your system so that you can focus, that's going to help on that one thing. But when we talk about mental wellness, we're really talking about this coordination of, it's not just a serotonin story, and it's not just a GABA story, and it's not just a dopamine story, and it's not just a cytokine story, which is inflammatory compounds. It's all of that. And so when we look across the gut-brain axis, there's things going on in your brain that we might want to modulate: blood flow to certain areas of the brain, different, excitatory or relaxing neurotransmitters. But most of those neurotransmitters are coming from your gut in the first place. When we're talking about serotonin, 90% of it is made in the gut. When we talk about dopamine, 70% of it is made in the gut. So et cetera, et cetera. But then what's happening in the second brain in the gut and the first brain in the head, they have to be able to communicate with each other. And that's the axis. That's how your inflammatory cascade and your circulatory system and your nervous system and even your immune system help to carry those signals back and forth between those two brains. So, one drug that does one thing isn't going to touch that beautiful coordination of neurotransmitter signaling across the entire gut-brain axis. So, but that's what we can do with nutrition. We can give you the right probiotic bacterial strains to improve your production of neurotransmitters in your gut. We can give you the right prebiotic fibers so that we grow and nourish those microbiome bacteria that are making those neurochemicals. We can give you different phytonutrients so you're able to send that signal across the axis up to the brain more efficiently. We can give you other natural nutrients to help your brain be a better receiver, so to speak, so that when those signals are generated by the gut and sent across the axis, they're received by the brain in a more efficient way. So it's like we didn't know any of this stuff 10 years ago, So when my son was in elementary school, it was a lot of like sneaking things into his smoothie to see if they were going to work for him, But now, sitting here together now, after this terrible pandemic that we've all been through globally for the last 2 years, that has really put pressure on this system, especially for kids. Now we have all this new science that's been vetted out over that decade, and we can go, aha, now we have not just natural remedies, but scientifically validated natural remedies that parents can pick and choose and say, well, maybe it's more of a mood issue, or it's more of a focus issue, or it's more of a stress and relaxation issue. Those are all under the umbrella of mental wellness and mental well-being.
Yes, I love that, Dr. Sean. And that's why my son started to just feel better all over, because when you can't focus, your anxiety levels raise, right? And or the other way around, if you are anxious, it impacts how you focus. So when you take care of everything in a coordinated way,
that's exactly it. Yep.
Just like this beautiful harmony, this beautiful orchestra that we're creating in the body that affects how we feel.
Right. Sometimes I describe it to people as if so the microbiome, this collection of trillions of bacteria in your gut, when it's in balance, it really is honestly like a dynamic on-demand internal pharmacy that will produce naturally what you need when you need it in the right amount. So you might be having a glorious sunny rainbow day and you don't have a lot of stress hormones and you don't need a lot of resilience on a day like that, and everything's fine. But nobody probably has that day, right? But just for the sake of argument. But then on those days where the what hits the fan, you need your microbiome to be able to adjust on demand to the situation that you find yourself in, and help you navigate that. And there's ways we can measure that in the laboratory and in the clinic, but the science is finally to a point where we can say to people, here are these nutrients. We know if we give these to you, they're going to have these effects across your gut-brain axis, and you're going to feel them. You're going to show up in a given situation and be able to get things done at a level that you weren't able to do before because you were out of balance.
Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about some of these specific formulations that we can offer people, these natural formulations that we can get a handle on some of these ADHD symptoms, and the ingredients that you have, chosen, and kind of how it sets it apart, how these ingredients are set apart from what you could get like down the grocery aisle, or what sets them apart. Things like the theanine, the saffron, the glutamine, the pine bark, the prebiotic fibers. And I'll kind of hold up. Let's start with kind of these three combinations.
Okay. Yeah. So in that one that you have right there in your hand, the little stick pack one, that has one of my absolute favorite. Well, it has two of my absolute favorites. So in there, that's a product that we formulated to deliver theanine, because theanine is a naturally occurring amino acid in green tea. So that product that you have has a base of matcha green tea. So it's giving a little bit of naturally occurring caffeine, which can be really good for helping to focus the brain. But if you can do it along with theanine, theanine is a relaxing amino acid that can help balance the effects of caffeine. And so whenever I say that, people say, well, wait a minute, relaxing and activating, wouldn't those cancel each other out? They happen in different parts of the brain, which is the beauty of nature. Here's this plant, this green tea plant that calms and activates different parts of your brain. So what you end up delivering to somebody is what we call relaxed alertness. They're really able to get into that zone and focus in an engaged, connected way. So that's one set of phytonutrients in there. What is
that's huge? That's huge.
It's huge. In fact, theanine in Japan is used as natural first-line therapy for ADHD. So like Japanese parents would never in a million years think about putting their child on one of these synthetic ADHD drugs without first trying a natural therapy like theanine to see if it could get them into that zone that they needed to be in.
Yeah.
So one of the other ingredients in that product is New Zealand pine bark. So pine bark is something that can also activate different areas of the brain in a non-stimulant way. So we have studies that show that your brain, when you're using New Zealand pine bark, works faster. Your memory is better. Your problem solving is better. Your ability to sort of like connect the dots in a given situation is better and faster. So your brain is sort of like supercharged, but in a non-stimulant way. And so same thing in New Zealand, parents use that as a first-line therapy for helping their kids focus. There's all these kinds of remedies out there that most Americans have no idea about.
I know, but we're changing that.
We're changing it.
So this product,
this one,
how it relates to how we want to help, with ADHD too, as well.
Yeah, so this helps with, that product Edge helps with mood, motivation, metabolism. The motivation part of it really is it's motivation is different than just focus, and it's different than just energy, and it's different than just being in a good mood. Motivation is this kind of actionable energy where you feel so good you want to do something with it. It's like you take somebody from low motivation to motivation, and we do it here with a mango leaf extract. That person feels good enough. They go, yeah, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's do something. Right. And that's a really, really needed kind of a feeling now for a lot of people, because so many people have been just like, kind of stuck, this can help you get unstuck. And we do it with this mango leaf extract. So mango leaf is really, really high in these compounds called xanthones, which they're anti-inflammatory, but they have activation effects in the brain. So again, a non-stimulant way to get your brain to focus, so you have improved cognitive performance. But a lot of athletes use it as a way to fuel their physical performance. Back in my sports nutrition days, that's where we would focus. We would say to athletes, if we can improve your mental fitness, you're able to get more out of your physical performance. And so now we see people using mango leaf for studying, for getting through the day, for getting up for their workouts, in all these different ways that you want to perform at your highest level.
Yeah, instead of those jacked up energy drinks that we see so many college kids on. And this could really help. So the next one are the GutBrain Access products,
Yep.
Kids formulation, we have the adult formulation.
Yep, kids and adult formulation, but they follow the same principles, which is going back to that idea of, hey, this isn't just a brain thing that we're talking about. It's a gut brain thing. And so let's just not focus on one brain. Let's focus on both brains. Let's focus on the brain and the gut. So we know now, we didn't know this 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we used to just say to people, yeah, probiotics are probably good for you. Go get a well-balanced probiotic and that will be generally good. But nowadays, fast forward to today, we know this principle of strain specificity, that different strains of probiotic bacteria will generate different benefits. So it can't be like, just say to people like, oh, go get a probiotic because they might get the wrong one. You want to get there are strains that we can say this strain lowers cortisol, stress hormone. So that could be an anti-stress strain. This strain increases GABA production in the gut. So that could be a relaxation strain. GABA is the body's primary relaxing neurotransmitter. This one helps lower inflammation and increase serotonin. So that could be an antidepressant kind of a strain. So et cetera, et cetera. We can go through all of those. We have strains that we can very precisely put into products to say, all right, we want to improve your resilience. We want to improve your mood. We want to improve your mental focus. And so those products that you just held up are sort of overall resilience products, because what we've done is we've put in a serotonin strain, we've put in a cortisol strain, we've put in a GABA strain, so that people don't just feel better, they feel holistically better. They feel like they have more resilience in the stressful lives that we all lead. But we didn't just stop at the probiotics. We also used prebiotics, the fibers that are going to nourish those bacteria. We used a range of what we call phytobiotics, which are plant extracts that help with activating those neurotransmitters in your brain. So, both of those products are really examples of coordinated gut-brain axis systems that we can use this really good science and just translate it down into a product that is just a single scoop of all of these nutrients that you mix up in liquid and drink down, and you have activation across your entire gut-brain axis. It's never been done before because the science wasn't here yet for us to do it. So people who are watching this right now, this might be the first time they're hearing about the microbiome, or hearing about the gut-brain axis, or hearing that we have two brains, or any of that kind of stuff. But it really is the forefront of where the science is today.
Absolutely. And I thought of one more thing with the edge, Dr. Sean, before we go on to like the Kids Mood Plus, the BDNF.
Yeah. So one of the ingredients in there, a palm fruit extract. Palm fruit we have in there as an overall mood enhancer because it does a lot of things. It helps in the gut. It helps with inflammation in the axis. It helps in the brain with what you just said, BDNF. It increases BDNF levels. BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And so that's the growth factor that is associated with learning. So if you have more BDNF goes down as we age. It's one of the reasons that we think that memory gets worse and worse and worse. BDNF is responsible for your brain exhibiting this idea called plasticity, that your brain can change and get better as we learn something new. So if you have more BDNF on board, that's going to make it easier to remember, easier to think. You're going to be more creative. Your brain is actually going to have the ability to grow new neurons when there's BDNF on board, versus when it declines, your neurons start to go away as well. So yeah, really, really interesting effect.
Wow. I love it. Someone just asked what it tastes like. And I mean, I've been using it since it came out, and it's
Right.
delicious, right?
Right.
And a lot of times, the gut products, which either don't have a taste or might taste bitter to some people,
Mhm.
depending on whether their microbiome is in great dysbiosis, mixing edge with it
That's
is
what I do. I mix them
right.
together. And people started mixing them because what we found was, we formulated these products and said, here's one that it works in the gut and supports the whole gut-brain axis. Here's one that works in the brain and supports the gut-brain axis, right? So you can sort of do a bottom-up or a top-down kind of an approach. And people would look at those customers and they'd go, well, why wouldn't I want both of those? And so customers started mixing them together and saying, I want the bottom up and the top down. I want to be as good as possible in all these scenarios. And
Right.
and we realized, wow, that's exactly what people want.
Right. And that's why I've equipped both my kids, not only my ADHD kiddo, which has helped him phenomenally. When Edge came out, that's how he put it, Dr. Sean. He's like, oh my God, Mom, my game just went up.
Right.
And he already graduated from college, but he's in, doing life, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
working new jobs and, just living life at his best.
Yeah. And that I think brings up a good point, Colleen, is that people will hear us talk sometimes and they might say to themselves, well, I don't have the ADHD, I don't have depression. I don't have burnout, and we go, well, great, good for you. But are you at the best that you can be? Our best customer, I actually think, is that person who's kind of in the middle zone, right? They're kind of in that gray area. In my world, we refer to it as languishing, right? You're not quite depressed. You're not quite burned out. You don't really have any issues. You're fine, right? Everything's fine, but fine is not how we want to live this one life that we have, right? We want to be what you just described. We want to be that example of your son who's leveling up and going to this higher level of performance that he had before. And that's good if you're a student. It's good if you have a family. It's good if you have a career. It's good if you have a hobby. I mean, so it's good for all the scenarios that we can be the best version of ourselves at
Right.
whatever level that we want.
That's right. Absolutely. I'm all for it. A couple other products before we wind down here and wrap it up. Kids Mood Plus. We have to talk about the ingredients.
Yeah.
In Kids
This
Mood
is a game changer.
Plus. Not only for kids, right?
Yeah, well, not only for kids. I have it on my desk right now. I take one of these almost every afternoon just to help me, like afternoon, 3:00 comes and you're thinking like, when's the end of the day coming? And I might have 3 or 4 more evening Zooms to get through. So, I open up one of these. This is just a little stick pack. You open it up, you dump it in your mouth like we're old enough. We remember Pixie Sticks, right? From, back in the day, like these sugar bombs. This is naturally sweetened, sugar-free. But what it does is it really wakes up your brain. It's got a number of ingredients, but one of the really cool ingredients in here is a saffron extract. We specifically source our saffron from this beautiful little farm just south of Madrid, Spain. The saffron is literally picked by hand. These little stems are picked by these little old ladies from the village, and they dry them and they extract them in just the right way. But why would you want this? We call it Kids Mood Plus. The plus is that it isn't just for mood. It's also for stress. It's also for focus. It's also for resilience. We did a little pilot study on this to show that we got 100% efficacy in this study of kids who weren't ADHD diagnosed. They were just rambunctious kids that were kind of on the fence. Maybe someday they might have to have that discussion. 100% of them, their parents came back and said, "Oh my gosh, can I get more, please?" Right? It was that noticeable for these kids. The specific saffron that we use, that one that we source from Madrid, Spain, that's been used in clinical trials to show equivalence to Ritalin for focus, and equivalence to Prozac for depression, and equivalence to some of the sleep drugs for helping you relax and get a good quality of sleep. Because what it does is it helps with that neurotransmitter coordination. And if your neurotransmitters are coordinated, you're energetic and focused when you need to be, you're relaxed and in the zone when you need to be. It's that idea of your body being this dynamic internal pharmacy, and saffron is one of the really good ways to do that.
Wow, huge tool, right?
Huge.
Tools that
Yep.
we can equip our bodies and our brains, right?
Yep. And now we've got kids all over the country now, asking for their little snack. It tastes sweet. It's fun to use because it's a powder you dump in your mouth, and they love it. And then you see moms and dads also going, yeah, I could use one of those too. So it's not just for kids, like you said.
Right. Now I have moms put them in the kids' lunch box.
Mhm.
At lunch, they take another one so they can be equally focused, equally engaged throughout the rest of their school day.
Right, exactly. My 20-year-old son now, he takes one before he goes off to campus, for his school day, and he takes another one when he gets home to help his focus when he's doing his homework. So
Yeah.
it's for little kids, it's for medium kids, it's for big kids.
That's right. Two other products, Dr. Sean, are the Menta Focus, which is part of the adult GutBrain Access.
Mhm.
But sometimes we can, if we're equipping like an older kid with like the Edge, Energy, and the Mentabiotics, we can add this Menta Focus in,
Right.
like another supercharger, right?
Right, exactly. So Menta Focus includes the pine bark extract that I was talking about before at an even little higher level, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. It also has a very unique pomegranate extract that has been used in clinical trials to show that it improves memory. So that product is more of a focus memory product than it is a mood product, right? But everybody knows, if your focus is off, if you have brain fog, if you're a little bit cloudy, that's going to make you a little bit irritated because that's going to weigh down on your mental wellness. The reason that we have those ingredients at a little bit higher level is that pine bark has also been studied in cases of traumatic brain injuries, things like concussions, and it can really help the brain come back to normal activity a lot quicker. And so that combination can help with focus. It can help with overall brain performance like memory and cognition. It can also help. My hobby is bicycle racing. And so I have a lot of bike racer friends that have taken a knock on the noggin, with a crash. And when we ride, we'll take that product at a double dose before we roll out, and it really helps you sort of be in the zone. You see, you see the pothole before anybody else. Everything is sort of happening in slow motion. It's a really, really cool effect. And that tells us that it's working.
Wow. So good to know about the concussions because my daughter has had a few in her soccer days.
Mm-hmm.
She's my college student, non-ADHD, but this kind of the high achiever.
Mm-hmm.
And the stress and anxiety that went kind of unknown all through like high school,
Right.
kind of came out in college.
Right.
And she is utilizing the protocol and all these products. And she texts me, Mom, I'm running low.
Right. My college age kids too. And that, Colleen, that right there is the proof. When you get a text message from your kid at school that says, hey, can you send more of the thing? That's it right there.
Right. It's working. They know they can feel themselves feel better,
right,
and respond better and achieve more things without that stress. And it's just a huge, huge thing. And one more thing, kind of segue into our sleep product, because we know kids with ADHD, kids at college, our kids are not getting the best sleep, even if they're not coming out and waking you up in the middle of the night saying, hey, I can't sleep.
Right.
Like we can equip them so they get that brain restored sleep.
Right, exactly. Because it's during sleep that our brain cleans itself. I mean, literally, there are now 3 or 4 years ago, a couple of scientific groups discovered that like the mechanism by which your brain cleans itself. And it doesn't do that unless you're getting good quality sleep. Your brain basically shrinks and grows and shrinks and grows and basically has a flushing reaction to get all of that accumulated junk out of your brain that you accumulated during the day. So you have to get good quality sleep if you want to have good brain health the next day and the next day and the next day. And so what that product does, it's a non-melatonin way to help people sleep better. You spend more time in REM sleep where your brain recovers. You spend more time in deep sleep where your body recovers. And even if you're only getting 6 hours of sleep a night, at least it's better quality sleep. So it's better for all those recuperative mechanisms.
right? And I have a lot of parents when I'm first talking with them say that, yes, my kid has sleep issues, but we use melatonin, but we're
Right.
on
I
melatonin,
hate to hear that.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the problem with that, as you know, but some of your listeners might not know, if you take melatonin, a hormone, and 100% of the melatonin that's on the market is synthetic melatonin. It's a hormone that your body naturally makes, but everything that's out there in the capsules is a synthetic version. If you take that every night, now your body is going to stop making its own melatonin. So now you're stuck. Now you have to take that melatonin every night. And melatonin doesn't do a very good job of improving sleep quality. There's really good studies that show this. Melatonin doesn't do it. Ambien doesn't do it. Lunesta doesn't do it. Any of those antihistamine kinds of, whatever PM kinds of, painkiller things, none of those will increase your sleep quality. They might make you fall asleep. They might make you drowsy, but they don't increase your REM sleep. They don't increase your deep sleep. This does it because we use a corn grass extract that helps your body make more melatonin on demand. So people will see a common theme here. We're trying to get you to make more of these natural neurotransmitters that your body should already make these natural hormones like melatonin, make your own antioxidants, right? Why not make it? And that prevents you from having to take these synthetic things from the outside.
That's right. Awesome. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of people off melatonin and onto our natural sleep. One product I forgot about that's part of the kids pack is the Kids Vita GBX, but there's an adult version as well. Mm-hmm. Why is this different than just your run-of-the-mill kind of gummy or vitamin that you can?
Yeah. So it's not just vitamins and minerals. So it is vitamins and minerals. It's a full spectrum vitamin and mineral formulation, right? Bioavailable forms, well-absorbed forms, natural forms of all the vitamins and minerals in the right levels, no mega dosing, all that kind of stuff. But then we went the next level and we said, you know what? We want to improve mental wellness. We want to improve mental focus. We want to improve cognition. We want to make sure that the whole gut-brain axis is working. So we have a blend in there of phytonutrients called the Bright Mind proprietary blend. That Bright Mind blend gives all these phytonutrients, carotenoids and flavonoids and different amino acids that can really facilitate that production of all those neurotransmitters that need to be coordinated in all those different ways. So you're basically giving the building blocks, the cofactors that you need to run the metabolism. And we do that because most of us just don't get the baseline nutrition that we need. So a properly formulated multivitamin is going to be good for everybody.
Yeah, and another one that just came to mind is our superfoods, because we don't get the fiber, we don't get the phytonutrients that we need from our diet. So superfoods is a great option that you can just throw in water. It tastes great. Doesn't taste like grass.
Yeah. So all these products that we do that, they all sort of ladder back up to mental wellness, right? They're all helping you feel better in a particular way. But going back to what we were joking about before, people look and they go, well, I want to get rid of my fatigue and have more energy. And I want to get rid of my tension and have more relaxation. And I want to get rid of my grumpiness and have a better mood. And how do I pick which benefit to get? That's why we do these products that aren't just one benefit per product. They're a multitude of benefits. And then we combine them into packs, or what some people call stacks these days. So somebody can say, well, I want to do a gut one and I want to do a brain one and we put those together in packs that are more affordable for people.
Yeah, I love it. So guys, I know Dr. Sean has another talk after this, so we can't keep him here all day, even though I can talk about this all day long. If you are open to taking a look at what we're talking about here, right? Want more information on any of the products, or want a customized product recommendation for you, your kiddo, your family, and just want to get started, put more information in the comments, tag the person who invited you to your community, or if it wasn't me, to get more information, right? Maybe it's, for you as a mom or a dad, your kids with ADHD, autism, or just want more stress resilience. Let me just say, just from my experience with both my kids, that you cannot go wrong with giving your kid a fighting chance with this targeted nutrition for their body and their brain. That's what it is, right? It's targeted nutrition to bring about more mental wellness. So Dr. Sean, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
It's always great to talk to you, Colleen.
Sharing your knowledge. Do you have any parting message for our communities?
Yeah, so I guess my parting message would be, like, I love to talk about the science, but because it's interesting, it makes me excited. But the really cool thing about the time that we're in right now is that the science is to a point where it can make a meaningful impact in people's lives, right? So whether you care about the science or not, I would encourage people to, give one of these products a shot, because the science is in the product, and because of that, it works, and it works at a level where you're going to stand back and go, oh my gosh, where has this been, right? It really has a remarkable benefit.
Yeah, and my family is, firsthand experience with that, like a meaningful impact. Can't tell you. I can't even put it in words. So if you have been watching us live or on the replay and you found value in all of this information, put value in the comments as well. We want to hear from you with all your questions. But Dr. Sean, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. See you next time.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.